Hi, this is Robert Greer. This is Sprint 4 for CSC588. I'll start with a change I made to the previous project because I was using the handle improperly. So now my handle is completely private, and I don't use it for anything other than protecting this as an inter-thread object. And I associate the game sound with an audio sound just by a pointer. So yeah, there's a lot of other stuff involved in that, but that's the basic idea of how I changed the architecture there to be more correct. Okay, so now for the callbacks and stitching part. To do this, I created a new class called audio sequence. A sequence is just an object with an ID and then a list of raw audio assets. So again, my audio asset is just the raw WAV file with the buffer format. So the sequence, you can add new steps to it, and then there's also an iterator so that things can iterate over that sequence without it having any internal state. So for example, in the sound, I have an audio sequence that I reference, and then I own an iterator over that sequence. So what I do is when I construct the audio sound, I create the iterator, and then I get the first element, and then I submit that to my voice. Now when the voice ends, it's going to trigger the xaudio2 callback, and the callback enqueues an end sound call command. So the end command here, it calls back to the sound that ended and says, hey, you ended. So we can go to that definition, and it says, okay, the sound ended, so set the iterator to next, and then if it's not done, submit the current, which is the next, to the voice, and that stitches them together, so one after the other, each audio asset in that sequence will play. And then, of course, when it is actually done, the command will then remove it from the manager. So that's how the stitching works, and so I needed a way to load these in. So I have a sequence manager, which is the standard manager for the sequences, and then this is loaded with the command. So the audio thread will execute this command to load new sequences, and then also attach assets to an existing sequence to grow that sequence. So these commands are sent over by the game sound manager, which is sort of the one-stop for all audio stuff. So you previously could just load assets, but now you can load the sequence, and then you can attach assets to a sequence to build up the song. So this just creates those commands and then sends them over to the audio thread. So for the demo and for what the user sees in Seinfeld, so here when the demo starts, I'm going to load up all the raw assets with their relative file path. And then once they exist, I can create the sequence, and then I can attach all of my audio assets to the sequence from start to end. So now the sequence exists, I can create a game sound, which has sound ID Seinfeld, and it's going to play back audio sequence Seinfeld, which is what I defined here. Then I just play it, and I can set the properties and do all the stuff I did previously with the sound. And of course, it's using the same voice, so those changes will apply to each step in the sequence. And then I have a timer, and every 10 seconds, I cycle the panning from center, right, left, and back to center. So let me play it. You can start the demo by pressing space. So you can see in the output, it has a list of all the steps in the sequence, and the arrow will go down the list as it plays, and then the panning will also cycle each direction. All right, so the sound ends, it gets removed, and then the handle gets invalidated, and then I can close out, and it exits cleanly. All right, that's it for this week. Thank you.